Hello everyone, it's Fallout 4 Guy here and welcome to the behind the scenes video for my Starlight Drive-In Player Home that I released about 3 months or so ago. So sorry for the delay on getting this one out, but yeah, it's always fun when I come back to them after 2 or 3 months because it's like a walk down memory lane for me. I can't remember half the stuff, so it's all new. But yeah, just quickly, what I do in these videos, they're not the full tour video. The full tour is in the description. Check that out first. This is more of a little look behind the curtain to what's gone on, and I'll walk around in workshop mode and I'll show you all the items and objects used to put things together, and then talk a little bit about the thought process and just the reasoning to why I do certain things and why I choose certain why I make certain choices to do what I do. So that being said, on with the video. So we're at Starlight Drive-In, and I built here about 3 or 4 times probably in the past, and I always come here for big builds. It's quite a good place. You can really push it, this area. There's not that much around it scenery wise, so the game lets you kind of get away with building quite large stuff here. But I wanted to do something different, so I wanted to focus on just the projector building. I don't really see that many people just sort of incorporate that into the main build. Like, they'll use it and they'll build like a little mini town or whatever, and that'll be part of it. But I wanted to really just put my player home and just cram it and see how much stuff I could squeeze into that little building. So that was the idea, and that was why I chose this spot for this build. But yeah, funny enough, like most of the time was spent on the outside, even though that was the main part of it. The wall, I can start with the wall to be honest, because I get asked about tilting a lot, like how do you tilt, and do I have some kind of secret tilting thing? No, I don't. Basically, I tilt a lot, and I just kind of just get good at it. Really, that's the main thing. Not that I'm like an expert at it by any means, but I've done it enough now to kind of have a good idea of which objects are on which axes before I even start the tilt. I don't know whether to bother explaining some of this because I know not all of you are on PS4, so this kind of really applies to PlayStation and maybe a little bit of Xbox. But yeah, when you tilt, so the tilting mod for PlayStation 4 is called QwaPA. It runs similar to the Xbox version, although the Xbox version is a little bit easier to use from what I gather, mainly because you have to come in and out of workshop mode like you do on PlayStation 4. But basically you get an item that you can manipulate outside of workshop mode. I use a bread box. You set it to where you want it to be by like just moving it outside like you would move any free object. And then you, in workshop mode, you go and get the item you want to tilt to, and then you put your tilting post down. You set the item on that. Then you come out of workshop mode and you click X on it, and it teleports to the angle that the bread box was on. It's pretty straightforward to use once you get the hang of it. But the trick is knowing which axis each object's on, and not all of them are the same, so they can vary. So with something like the wall, this really is just a lot of just experience and trial and error to get things looking natural. I mean, you could spend hours just messing around with tilting, trying to get stuff to look like it's lying naturally. One of the easier ways to do it though with something like this is to just put the bread box on the actual object that you're trying to get it to lie on. Now, it's not always going to lie properly because, well, for example, like this wing of the car here is like slightly higher than that part there, and then it goes up. So if you put a bread box, it would maybe not fall in between like you want it to on there, but you could maybe balance it in a way that follows that line, so that when you put in this case, the bed frame on it, it already is in that position. That's one of the ways to do it. I kind of just sometimes just look at it and I can just make the tilt, but the main kind of like easiest way is to try and find something that's got that angle on it basically, and then you lie your bread box on top of the object, and then hopefully it's a case of it just maybe adjusting the bread box ever so slightly next time if it's not quite right. So but yeah, the bottom line is there's no real method I can tell you to do. It's just one of those things, the more you do it, the better you get at it. The better you get at it, the easier it becomes, and saves more time. But at first it is just trial and error. So there's a lot of tilting in this wall, and there's lots of like messing around trying to get things lined up right. But I wanted this junk wall, so it was kind of worth it for me, the time investment, to make sure it looked cool. The idea basically was that, you know, the guy, he's been here, he's a bit of a scrap freak, and yeah, he just kind of hoards shit and just stacks it up. Plus I just thought it made it look more interesting than just the average wooden wall that, you know, that most people would just put down, so just wanted to be a bit different. The gate obviously doesn't close, well it does close, but I mean the gate wouldn't look right closed because I put these nets and things hanging off it, just for show really. And there we are, there's the thing I think I built first with this build. Vehicles, I'm kind of known for vehicles, but I personally can't just rebuild the same kind of car. I have to do something different, and I wanted to do with this one, I wanted to do sort of like a very, you know, buggy, open framed looking vehicle, and I knew I kind of had this idea in my head about what I wanted to look like, so I knew what I wanted to do. So I thought, well, if I focus on the vehicle, if I do the vehicle first, and then and put that, you know, park it where I want it to be, then I can build around it. Because what happens with a lot of this stuff is, so if I had built the wall first, for example, and come out to say here, and then I built the vehicle and I wasn't quite sure 100% how big the vehicle was going to be, I end up having to then move my wall, because, you know, you can't move the vehicle because there's too many parts in it. And yeah, it's just easier, I think, to start with the vehicle for something like this. So I started with the vehicle, hadn't done anything else, and then once I was happy with the size and the scale of it, I started to then build the buildings and the wall and everything around it. So yeah, so this was the first thing I built, and it went through a few stages. It didn't take that long. Well, it did, but it didn't take that long, you know, for what you might think. It was about 5 hours, I think, which I suppose is quite long on one thing, but for me it's not that bad. I've built things that take a lot longer. My motorhome, for example, took a lot longer. But yeah, so like the framework, as you can see, it's all just conduit, like piping. One of the things I get asked about these kind of things is like, oh, how do you you know, how do you make things like kind of symmetrical and make it look like you've kind of got like you know, like everything kind of matches up, like it almost like it snaps together. And well, I don't. Basically, it's not actually that symmetrical. If you look at it, it's slightly off. You know, it's not always bang on straight. And I kind of like the look of it not being too straight, to be honest. It looks like it's had a bit of a beat in it. It's bent a little bit, but it's not far off. But basically, I line everything up with eye, and there's certain things you can help with snapping stuff together. Like it can help a little bit. Like if you lay the foundations down, you can maybe snap a few like wood panels, wood floor pieces together, and then try and go off that. You can do it that way. I've done it like that in the past. But with this one, you know, I put the what's that called? The framework of the car. It's just called frame there, but you know, like the rusty piece of the car back down. Put that down first, and I used that purposely just so I could get the wheels lined up. That was the only thing I really cared about being in line. So I used the actual original like parts of the frame where the steering column would be. I put the wheels onto that first, and then the same with the rear ones. And then all I did was just brought them out this way, because if they was actually touching it, it would be too narrow. So once I got it lined up, I just brought the wheels out to the right each side, just to make it wider. And then once that was in, that was it. The rest of it was just lining up by eye really, and tilting the conduit piping to the angles I wanted, and then just matching it on the other side. Once you've got one tilted to the one you want, again, like with the bread box method I mentioned before, you leave the bread box out, don't move it, get another bread box, and then you've always got an object that's tilted at that angle to go off for the next one. So for example, that would have its own bread box, you know, that would have its own bread box. That one would probably be off that bread box, but I just would rotate it the other way around, you know, so that would have been the same angle, and then you just tilt it that way to set it, so that would be on on one bread box those two, and so on and so forth. So yeah, there's a lot of different angles, and it's just keeping track of all the different ones you want, and then just referring back to the bread box later on to set a new tilt off that. Yeah, it sounds complicated, but like I say, once you've done it a few times, it does get a bit easier. I'll put some links in the description for this to my friend Werty Perty, who's done, I think, the best tutorials. I would have loved to have had those tutorials when I first started getting into building and using the tilt tools, because there wasn't any really out when I was started, and I had to kind of just work it out myself. But he's done these great guides, and they definitely tell you stuff that, like, save you a lot of time working out yourself. I'll put them in the description anyway. So yeah, so once I've got the frame, the rest is just, well, rest is easy, to be honest. The frame is the hardest bit, and well, the frame and kind of the design, I suppose. The design, you either like work off a design that you can see somewhere, or you have a good imagination, whichever. But once you've got the framework laid down, the rest is just decorating it, which I find like the easier part. So yeah, so you can see all the objects that are in this. So the engine parts, that's from USO, panels, the inside dashboard. This is just a chain link fence that I've tilted, as you can see. Let's get rid of that. And I always like to have my my interiors now in the vehicles I do. I kind of started doing this at a few vehicles back, and I can't not put them in now. Even if you can't really get in them at all, obviously I can't get in there, but like, I just like to have it. It just looks cool, makes it look more realistic. The problems that presents though is that I used to build my vehicles off a base vehicle, and it was always easy to do that because A, you've got a shape to follow, and B, because you could just sink things into it and hide stuff. When you scrap the base vehicle, and especially when you want to make hollowed out vehicles like this, you're really limited on what you can hide by using, like, the old glitching stuff into it trick and hiding things inside the actual vehicle itself. So yeah, so this is kind of like what I would class as more advanced building, when you don't really get to hide anything, and you can't rescale objects on PS4, so everything's got to fit. But the challenge again is worth the headache, because I think it just makes the vehicle look more realistic. The pedals down below, I've used that in my motorhome build before. That's a flipped upside down wheelchair, which I can't click. What is stopping me clicking that? I don't even know. Don't know what that is. Oh, it's gone, whatever it is. So yeah, so that's a wheelchair. Just thought it looked good for pedals. There's obviously no gears on this car, must be, because there's no clutch, but whatever. The bumpers are always like, not a challenge, but like, there's always a little thing. So the bumpers, I think, are important to a vehicle. The vehicles look so weird without a bumper on. Even if you just take that little part off, and you've got, that kind of nakedness, they don't look right. So I always kind of take time to try and make sure the bumper just looks right. This is actually made out of quite a few different railing parts, as you can see, all just tilted slightly to get the right angle. So you've got, like, how many pieces have you got in here? 1, 2, 3, 4 railing pieces, and then conduit running through the centre to make the central bar. Looks like it's held all together. But yeah, I think it's like important to kind of get the right looking bumper when you put these vehicles together. Just making sure that they don't look too weak, or doesn't look too heavy at the front. I've got a little winch on this though, you can't really see it here, but it's underneath that skull. Just looks like there's a little winch hanging on, and I've got this teddy bear stuck on there. It's for decoration. Lots of bits of detailing as well that really adds a bit of like realism to the vehicle, like radiator grills and things, and then tools and things already on there, obviously weapons, other stuff. The harpoon gun, I've done that before. It's like a recycled idea that I had ages ago. A few of you dedicated like eagle-eye people of my channel might have recognised it, but I built a wood cabin a long time ago, over a year ago I think now. I think it's called like Survival Wood Cabin or something, I can't remember. It's on my channel, you'll see it eventually. It's basically like just a simple wood cabin with like a tree outside. There's like a tree house and things. It's pretty cool, and I did like it. But one of the things I had on the balcony was like a harpoon type gun as a defense mechanism, and that's where I first got the idea to do that. It was like a very kind of basic version of this. I think it was on a tripod actually, and I always wanted to kind of reuse it. I was going to reuse it on a boat that I was messing around with before, but never bothered sort of exploring that too much. So I used it on this car instead. Just dead simple to do, and it's just got the normal harpoon gun and then the modified pole hook weapon, melee weapon, with the 3 prongs on. And I think I've just used some little bits. Yeah, just some little parts. Don't even know what the hell that is. Don't know what that is when it's overlaid onto a piece of conduit, and that's it really. It's dead simple, but I think it looks cool. Gives something for the passenger to sort of do, and you can be standing there basically is the idea. Pull that up. The shutter window pieces that are there, that they are from my requested mod for that Fall Guy. Requested parts by Toys Out of the Pram, and that is, I'll put a link to that mod in my description as well, because I do get asked. People can't find that mod very easily for some reason. Well, I know why. It's in the work in progress section, but a lot of people think you can type to search for it, and you can't. You have to go and scroll manually. But I'll put a link to that mod in my description. Yeah, what else? There's a bed in there for the windscreen. Military cot. I think that's in USO. The dashboard is in my requested mod again, same mod. So is the dice. Super sled on the side. That's just a normal weapon, like just made static on there. I think you can pretty much see most of the stuff. I don't know if I need to really show all that. But yeah, the big suspension springs. I don't know if you want to know, they're from their Liberty Prime parts, and they're also from my requested mod as well. The license plate for that Fall Guy plate, that's also from my mod. That's in the car parts section. And I think we're good there. We covered it. So yeah, so basically, lots and lots of parts, lots of layering, and you know, if you've never built a vehicle before, I definitely recommend having a go at it. It's one of those things you do get better at it the more you do it, and but it's a lot of fun to kind of like put these crazy post-apocalyptic vehicles together. Right, now we've got that out of the way, onto the Courtyard. So this place just kind of really evolved into what would be in this guy's place really. So in the house itself, he's a bit messy. He's a bit of a hoarder. There's a lot of shit. There's junk everywhere, and I thought he could be like a bit of a tinkerer guy. So the outside kind of reflects that. Lots of tools, lots of you know, parts and things salvaged from to build other stuff out of wood, things lying around. It was just a case of like trying to create that kind of, thinking what that kind of person would be like, and then kind of trying to create that theme going on outside. So obviously a bit of machine parts here to fix his car. Actually this was because I couldn't move this trash bin here. That's just, I don't know what the hell, that's just permanently stuck there. I can't remove it. So I ended up building this kind of table thing around it with the like one of those shipping container pieces, and just built that around there. The frame thingy with the hanging engine, that's from one of Toys Out of the Pram's mod, and I can't think which mod it is. All my mods are in the description anyway. I use about 12 mods, so not a lot. What is that build? I think that is from one of his mods, just called requested parts, I think, or something. I'm not sure. Anyway, the cables and wires, that's also from my requested mod, and that was like something that I put in like near the end, because I had all this stuff and these lights and things around, and I had this generator room here, and I don't know, it didn't look right not having wires coming from it, really. It just looked like it needed it. Like, I didn't want to have the usual crappy fallout wires that I have got going to add some power, but I've not really made a big thing out of that. I thought these cables looked better, so running these around the place just gave the floor a little bit more, you know, something more interesting to look at, and I think it just made it look more realistic. And it was a pain in the ass to get like that cable there, look, to fit in that. I didn't build this. This is the actual original road, but the cable, I wanted it to like run through that gap, because it looked like if I was going to lay a cable in real life, that I'd kind of have it tucked in there so I didn't trip over it. So I had to try and find a cable, because there's lots of cables in this section where this is in my requested parts, and there's lots of different cables in there, and man, yeah, trying to find the right one to fit down there was a bit of a shit, trying to get the angle right on it. And then the rest of them all run into dirt, and then they run into the actual house through there. So yeah, things like cabling and stuff I normally do at the end. It's a case of walking around and seeing what's missing, what haven't I got. You know, I'll look at it and I'll think, you know, oh, there's water there, yeah, just should have something floating in it, and that I'll just put a bottle in there. It's just one of those things that I look at it and then add slowly towards the end, all the little details and things. Nothing ever looks finished to me. I even look at it now, I'm thinking, oh, this, I can see things I should have done. So yeah, it's never a case of like it looks finished. But yeah, there's only so much obviously you can keep doing until it looks ridiculous. It's over cluttered and becomes pointless as well, because sometimes you've got so much stuff that is hiding other stuff that no one notices anyway. But yeah, like things like the hanging ladders and things like that was like a last addition as well. I was like, oh, the guy's got no ladders. You need ladders. Like, what kind of like guy that builds and does, you know, kind of repairs and the maintenance and all that kind of stuff, what you would have ladders? So that was another addition. Plus this area, it looked empty, it needed something. So yeah, ladders. There's a little herb garden there, and then this little workshop kind of was a natural progression as well, because, you know, obviously having the outdoor bit where his car's parked, you'd want like an inside piece of it where you could work under here. So I put the workshop in. I did have a little ramp here that I'd got aiming towards the door, but it looked, I don't know, you couldn't tell what it was from this angle, and because I was never going to open that door, I thought I'll remove it. But basically the ramp would have been there for him to drive or roll heavy objects in, like the bike, for example, rolled up onto the ramp. This is like a rolling road that he would use. Then once he's maybe fixed this, he'd prop it up, set it going, and you can then test the you know, how efficient the engine's running and speed. And this would be on, and it would the wheels would turn this, move this conveyor belt and make a rolling road. That's the point of it. A lot of these, I mean, I don't even think I showed that in the tour. I can't remember, to be honest, but you know, it was never something that I was maybe would point out. It was just more to do with you know, it looks like it does something, really. But yeah, like this again, you know, it's a reason to have clutter. I think that is the main stuff. Sometimes you'll put things in like set pieces like this just so you've got a reason to kind of fill an area up with something. And yeah, like it just seemed like all the stuff that I put out here would be good filler areas, good fillers to use in the area. So onto the house. So this is the main bit, and this is the bit that kind of stumped me for a little while. I didn't know what to do with this space. You know, I'm sure anyone watching this, I'm sure you've been to Starlight Drive-In, you know what this room looks like beforehand. But you know, it's a curved building, and I originally wanted to keep the curved building, and I'd got I got lighthouse doors for windows in the curved building. It looked really nice to have the glass at the end. It was like, yeah, like this is obviously I want to stay with it, but I couldn't fill the space at the bottom with the curving. That things just didn't look right. And to be honest, the curve wasted a lot of space as well, because as you'd have one thing on the curve, something next to it wouldn't quite fit then, because obviously it's a curve. So you know, most of the objects in the game are straight square objects. So in the end I got rid of the curve and put the blank wall off and straightened it, and that was much easier then to kind of fill the space. But yeah, it stumped me for a while about how to kind of make this room in a way that you could see everything from, you know, from here. I didn't want to be able to like block my vision. But so okay, so I build stuff now with the idea of the photographs or, you know, a video tour in mind. And it would, if you were building this just for a personal home, like just, you know, for a player home, it wouldn't matter if you've got divides up. You could have divides, it wouldn't make no difference. But from like a good angle to look through point of view, I wanted it to all be open so you could see it all in one shot. And believe it or not, that was actually quite difficult to try and do without making it look shit and still have divides. So this is obviously designed to have a divide in the room, so that kind of gives you an idea that that room ends, and the curtain also does the same things. The kitchen ends there, and then you've got the living room that starts, and then obviously this door naturally divides that up, and you've got the toilet there, and of course the toilet's all open, so I'll put curtains around it. So yeah, so like I've tried to kind of get like 3 rooms in here without having any walls up, and yeah, so that was kind of like more of a challenge than you'd think. But yeah, so the kitchen, I don't know if I need to really say anything about it. It's pretty obvious what's in here. The clutter decor is the kind of focal point. You know, I want it to look messy. There's like, you know, shit everywhere. it's a fucking dump basically. The front end of the car for the stove seemed suiting this kind of character, like to have that kind of, like, you know, that kind of reused machine kind of as his cooking thing. It's got like a little aircon, not aircon, so yeah, right, aircon ducting that naturally runs around the actual building, original building. So it's all runs through there, and I've just kind of incorporated my own piece duct into that, and then the piece above for like his little flue for the cooking fumes to go in. So obviously this fire is not filling the whole place with smoke, so it's kind of like he's tapped into the existing aircon to use that. Yeah, bit of washing up in the sink he's obviously not doing again, makes it look more slobby. So it's kind of like yeah, it's well, pretty straightforward what's been done there. The living room again, same thing, like just messy, dirty, lots of crap everywhere. That was the main theme for this, really, to keep it like looking like that. The piles of junk, again, the hoarder type theme, just trying to arrange things to make it look as natural as possible, but you know. And then this little part up the stairs, like I think I said this in the tour, that this kind of like my girlfriend does this. She stacks things up this fucking stairs. It really annoys me. So I just thought this was like something that he would definitely do, stack shit up the stairs. The bathroom, I'm really pleased with the bathroom, because bathrooms are one of these things in Fallout that obviously no player needs a bathroom, but I always try and incorporate bathrooms if I can in my player homes, just because of that, adds that realism. But I wanted this bathroom to look really horrible, to the point that you just, you know, even for the post-apocalypse, you wouldn't want to go in this toilet. It looks like it doesn't even work, like there's a plunger, like, so she's trying to unblock it, but yeah, you just give up. You know, obviously doesn't use the sink to wash up in. It's full of cans and crap. The bath, he's never used that by looks of it either. So, you know, it kind of, all these kind of things I'll try to put in to kind of sell the fact that this guy is a bit of a slob. Doesn't care about personal hygiene much. That was the idea. But what he does care about is all these gadgets and making stuff. So, you know, a personalised power armour So I've built a lot of these. I think like I might have been the first person to do power arms. I don't know, but since I started doing them like over a couple of years ago now, I do see people do these now. So I think people know how to do them. But just for those that don't, they're just armor pieces mainly that I use. Sometimes other pieces of power armor, and I'll just take them and just tilt them slightly and just layer them on, using place anywhere. They don't work, you can't get in them. I do get asked that a few times, and now that they don't work. Although it's possible on PC you could get a mod, and a modder could make ones like this and just put them on actual pieces and maybe walk around in them, but yeah, not on PS4. So that's like that's Overseer, not Overseer, Overboss chest piece. We've got another one of those there. We've got the pack armor pieces for the teddy bears. If you notice, the vehicle outside had teddy bears and things on it, so that's kind of a theme I've run through here as well, with the stuffed toys on it. We've got some radar pieces on the shoulder part there. That's the chest piece. The welding mask, the fridge magnets stuck on it again to keep the contrast of the cute death machine. And shoulder mounted minigun, also protected by armor pieces, which is just a power armor leg. What's that? Another chest armor piece, like it's air supply or something. And then yeah, just some weapons, hand mounted blade there, and what's that? Shotgun. So they're pretty easy to make. I mean, I have made more complicated ones in the past, but to be honest, I think sometimes the simpler ones look better. I definitely think this one is more my favourite kind of style, especially because it's all scrappy looking. I don't actually like the the XO1 and stuff like that. I think they just look they don't fit for me. I know they're meant to like be Brotherhood of Steel stuff, and I know it's like the highest tech, but I prefer this kind of look. I think this looks more post-apocalyptic. Not much to really say about this. I've kind of built this little room. So when you come out of this door, so if you remember, this door is actually blocked up in the original Starlight when you come here, and then under here would be like, there was a car, I think, and then you've got this broken kind of well, there's like two wings to this building, and then this one's all broken down. So I removed all that, removed the door, and then just built this kind of makeshift shipping container room with a bit of aeroplane wing on top, and just for his little workshop really. Again, more junk stacked up, just filler stuff. This little winch thing I put in, this crane, just because it just seemed like, it's got a lot of like heavy lifting to do with these power armor pieces, so I put this crane thingy in here just to help with some of that maybe. And then onto the actual next challenging part, the upstairs really, because this little area, if you remember, there's like a mattress there and a skeleton, and that's it. You haven't really got much else to do up here, and I wanted this to be the bedroom, so trying to squeeze everything into this and make it still look like there's room to move around was always going to be a bit of a challenge. But I came up with this kind of like this suspended bed, because there's like a railing there, I think. Yeah, there's a railing there that comes along this side, and then that's it. So you couldn't really do anything. So I removed the railing. I thought, I'll have this bed kind of like suspended over the top of this thing, so you could look up and see it from there basically. And but yeah, it just didn't look like it would work when I built it. It was like a bit of a hammock type thing, and it just looked like you were asking to die, basically. Like you could easily fall out of it and kill yourself. So I thought, nah, someone wouldn't really do that. So I ended up making the kind of the pallet thing underneath a little bit see-through, so you could still have the gaps and look up. And ended up building this bed instead, which I was really pleased with this bed. I'm glad I changed it. Basically, it was a much better version of the original version. And yeah, so this is made out of like, where you can see the wooden framework, a shack roof, and then the netting, the fishing nets. This is so annoying. I've just got to get rid of that. Actually, let me just check that is that. they have a massive hitboxes and you can't click through stuff like that. I won't let me click through that either. There we go. Yeah, so hanging fishnets, pain in the ass to tilt, because you've got to try and make it tilt in a way that looks like every part is kind of gravity is pulling it in the right direction. So that took a little bit of time to do that. Any bits that like were sticking out a little bit, I used these knotted bits to just to kind of like fill in the bits that it looks, so that wire, that bit of rope looks like it's kind of tied onto that without it just being sticking through the wood like it is there. Looks like it's kind of clipped through the wood like that, so that's why those are there. And yeah, and then the other challenge was just the blanket, you know, what to use for a blanket, because I couldn't use, you know, a sleeping bag or something because it's obviously flat, wouldn't fall right. So I just used these tannery hides, a few of them, just to make it look like it was all bunched up to the blanket, and then, you know, like pillows obviously to fill the rest of the bits in. It was, you know, quite easy once I got the angles for things right, but the main problem was obviously getting the net to fall in the right position and then filling the gaps into where it didn't look quite right. Put a little washing line thing along here. I don't know why I did that, just thought it looked interesting. That's just made out of normal electrical wiring, and then just glitched you know, bits of clothing on there. But yeah, the basically the premise of it was simple, but I think it really works. It's probably my favourite bed I've ever made. I've made a lot of different custom beds on my builds. I always normally do something custom when it comes to the actual bed itself, but this is my favourite one. And then just adding a bit of stuff underneath it, again tied in with the clutter downstairs and what, you know, what this guy's about. You know, no space would be you know, going to waste with this guy. I feel like anywhere he could cram some crap for, you know, hoarding stuff, I figure he'd use it. So that was the what the bottom of the bed was for. He's obviously a bit of a pisshead as well. There's just bottles everywhere. And then a little rifle for, you know, a bit of added defence. He's got this kind of gauntlet thing going on outside that you can pretty much see people coming from a mile away. So yeah, you can kind of just come up to his bedroom, this door shuts down, and at least if anything goes off, he can have a quick look at what's coming. More storage there. And that is it. There is a secret panel. If you saw my actual tour, you would know about this, but yeah, there's a secret panel in the wall. It opens up. That's his weapon stash. I have to kind of get a little secret panel in somewhere, I think, for a player home. It's just kind of like, people expect it now. It's just kind of like, it's like vehicles for me. It's kind of my thing. Where's the secret hideout then? So yeah, that opens up if I'm not in workshop mode. Hopefully you don't really notice it's there. That's the other thing about this Starlight build for me, was trying to change the inside of the building enough that you don't I mean, I could stand in here hopefully and you wouldn't know this was the projector room of Starlight Drive-In. That was kind of like another goal that I wanted to achieve, that, you know, would pass for somewhere else. I think you'd be hard pushed to, maybe this is the giveaway, that it's Starlight, you know. But yeah, this kind of doesn't, to me, doesn't look anything like Starlight Drive-In, and maybe the floor as well. But yeah, I think that might be it. If there's anything else you're unsure about, you know, don't hesitate to ask me in the comments. I know I tend to miss things. I can't help it. I just forget about stuff and not mention it. But I think I've covered most of the things in there. The catwalk, just looking at that now, the catwalk again was something added in near the end. It didn't make any sense to have you know, the wind turbines up there and not have a way to access them for repairing and stuff. So the catwalk and the ladders went in for that reason, really. Plus it just, you know, it made the outside of the building look a little bit more interesting. I kind of imagine that maybe he didn't build the catwalk. Maybe the catwalk would have been on a building like this anyway. I assume they would have had such a thing, you know, to access the outside of a building this tall. So yeah, I kind of just like thought, yeah, it'd be rusty and stuff because maybe it'd already originally be there. but I wanted to be able to access that bit, basically. That's why I did it. But it looks more interesting. I would have liked to have you know, done a bit more with this part, but there was really, what the hell. Sometimes things come back because I deleted the screen, as you can probably see, but that must have just teleported back there. It just does that sometimes on Fallout. When you delete things that are not meant to be deleted, sometimes they come back after a while. So yeah, I think that's it. It's not really that much of a long video today. Good, it's a bit shorter. Thanks for watching, guys. If you've got any more questions, please don't hesitate to ask, and like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye for now.